Okay, so next video, this is me sort of attempting to get a more interesting background. Um, Problem is the light's kind of funny right now. Let me get centered. I have a nice little light going on here. It's actually kind of blinding. And I've got the background light here. As you can see, I live a little closer to the street than I used to. And a bit busier. There's a UPS hub not far away, apparently. Anyway, so I get asked a lot about meltdowns, and I don't really have much to say. How do I handle a meltdown? I almost feel like I'm being asked, "Hey, Sean, I just threw a rock off the side of this here building, and it's headed for the ground, and my car is there, and the rock's about the size of a bowling ball. How do I stop it?" And I just want to say, hey, it's going to hit the car. And what do I mean by that? Well, when a meltdown happens or breakdown happens, it's treated as like they're special. Like, God, the angle on this camera is killing me. One moment. So the camera's mobile, and I have it hooked up to, I film onto a laptop, and I couldn't quite see myself. So there. All right. So actually, I don't look too bad. Anyway, so the thing is that once it happens, it happens. It's a cascade effect. The stresses push you up and up and up and up, and it's like supporting something on spaghetti. It's like supporting a book on spaghetti. And if you don't have like a whole bunch of bits of spaghetti, now imagine you have them cut up and then you stack them on each other and they get stronger. Well, let's say that each time you stack it, it gets longer. Anyway, you've got a few strands of spaghetti holding up this book, and it's way above ground, and the least little wobble and the whole thing collapses. The answer is to use more spaghetti or to not put it up there in the first place, or. But the point is that basically when you get there, it's too late. The time to do something about a meltdown or a breakdown, whatever you want to call it, is before it gets there. And I don't mean like in the few minutes before it gets there. I mean in the hours, in the days. Let me give you an example of two breakdowns I had. One really severe and one minor. One happened a long time ago, almost 15 years ago. It's been a long time. And one happened a few weeks ago. And I have the capacity, I'm sure lots of, if you know an Aspie or you know they can do this, to keep track of details in my life to an obscene level. In this example, what I mean by that is I used to keep track of every dollar I spent down to the cent. I didn't need to check my bank account because I was rarely off. I'd do it anyway just to be sure. But that's very important. I do it anyway just to be sure. Even though I knew that I was rarely off, I still go to the bank. Okay, how much, all right, deposit a check, and I have this much money. Right now, I'll have this much money in 4 days when the check goes through. I had this much money, now I go spend this much money. I can keep track of it, boom, 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 always in my head. A running count. Okay, I have this many bills, I have this, I have that. I was constantly juggling. And that was one of many, many things in my life. But I'm using this as an example because it got brought up in specific. And I've talked about when I was 23, how I had a general meltdown. And, I ended up in a mental hospital, and there's just a lot of things going on in my life, including being audited by the IRS, being diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, so on and so forth. It was rough. So, just realized the video is off center. I apologize. It's tilted to my left. Anyway, my bad. And one of the things that my psychologist brought up as to try to handle, was to stop keeping track of my money. She goes, "You're naturally a frugal person, so keep that element, Don't go blasting money everywhere. You generally, you are not the kind of person that will be able to handle having no idea how much money you have. You need that to remain sane. Okay, have a general idea of how much money you have, but give up the specifics. Give up the last penny detail that you have, this running count. It will help to put up among many, many things. It will help to get rid of many, many things that you have going on, and help de-stress you. Allow you stop spending spoons, basically, on this is before spoon theory that I knew about. Before I knew about it. Basically, stop spending spoons on this, and then you'll have them for other things, and you will not melt down as much. And this was one of many things, but one of I have to this day no specific idea of how much money I have. I have a rough idea, and I have a rough idea of our funds. My wife, having heard this story, does not tell me how much money we have. Again, I'm a naturally frugal person. I don't tend to spend a lot. I spent on her today, as sort of a treat, $1. I found something that she liked, and it was $1. And I went shopping today, and ooh, I spent a lot of money. We went out. We were examining this restaurant for her work was going to see if this other restaurant wanted to go into a partnership thing. That's all I know. I didn't like the restaurant, but we don't need to tell you why. It had nothing to do with it. Overall, I just didn't enjoy it, and I will talk about that. It's a sensory overload issue. But we spent $120 on 2 people for one dinner. This was the most money we had spent since her 25th birthday, I think, and on a single dinner. And I was, she goes, "No, we're cool, we're fine." I'm like, eh. She goes, "Look, we don't have a lot of money, but we can afford this." That's why she doesn't tell me how where her funds are at, because she doesn't want me to get anxious, to stress out, to hyper focus, to do all that on the funds. And so I did. I trust her. We've never run out of money. We've been together 3 years. She'll tell me, "Look, I need this much money, or if we need to reduce, or this or that." She'll tell me in general terms, or specifically how much money she needs, or in general terms how much we need to save. And that helps, and that really does. And again, I've been doing this for 15 years. I have gone broke in that time once. And I avoided it by like a day. I avoided going completely broke because I worked at a job, and when I got my paycheck 2 weeks later, because what was going on after I first started the job, I got lucky. I got basically a half a check 2 weeks later. And I had, I think when I checked, $9 in my account. And that was the closest I got. So I don't track money anymore. And that has helped. That single thing helped when I constantly remind myself to not track the money. That single thing helps me remember to not stress out about all the other things. Doesn't mean I don't stress out. Let me tell you why. We moved here, and I discovered there was a hole, a rather big hole, in my logic for being here. And that was, very simply, I can't be a driver around here. Not easily. The reason being is that I invite you, all of you, to go on to Google Maps and look at a map of Boston. Okay? We live in North Shore. We live inside the 95 circle. And look inside just that area. Just inside 95 into Boston as that sea. It's a fairly large area. And then look inside the outer loop. And then understand that just outside the 495 outer loop. And then look just outside of that. And understand that that whole area is Boston, and that's the local area. Now imagine that I used to know basically all the routes and all the roads in an area that big when I lived out in Reno. This includes Reno, Lake Tahoe, Carson City, parts of Sacramento, parts in East, bend my knees here. Oh, uh, parts in eastern Nevada, and all of that. And I had that memorized. I come out here and I don't. We've been here a month, and the first couple of weeks, I didn't know where we were. I didn't know how to get to where we were going. I was constantly using GPS navigation, which I hate doing. I use it for some things. When we were getting across country, I was like, okay, what are we doing? But if I'm going to someplace one time, it doesn't bother me as much. But there's still some part of me that says you should know everything. You should know all the roads everywhere, which of course is insane. I mean, there's the famous there's a famous thing in England. All of my British viewers will know this. In London, they have this thing called the knowledge, which is this test that cabbies have to pass, where they, okay, you're going here, you're here, it's this time of day. What route do you use? And it's a famously very hard test that can take you 3 years to study for. And I've been told that people come here from London and think the traffic and the roads around here are bad. I don't know if that counts or if it was just the strange new city. But London is famously hard to navigate through. After all, it's been there in some form or another for 2,000 years, roughly. So it was back when people were walking around, and carts and whatnot. And you can see the roads around here were meant for people. The cars are sort of a new thing as far as the Boston area is concerned. And I say that with no kidding, because Boston just celebrated its 386th birthday. So as far as world cities go, it's young, but still old enough to have been around well before cars. You see a lot of Ys here, because that's how people tend to do. They don't tend to make sharp lefts or sharp rights. They tend to sort of veer off this way, veer off that way. You see a lot of Ys in the surface streets. And so for me to expect that is to have a greater level of knowledge than the knowledge. And again, this is a 3-year test. Hell, look at the comic Hellblazer and understand that John Constantine's cabbie, because it takes place in England originally, has one of his special abilities is he has the knowledge. Capital T, capital K. But I still melted down over this. I still broke down. I was so much of an asshole. And my wife was going, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I don't know. I have this and I have that." And I finally realized that what was bothering me was I didn't know the roads. And the traffic around here were like the 5th worst drivers in the nation. As a friend of mine said, basically, it sounds like the right-of-way belongs to he who is most willing to die. And that's pretty much it. The most suicidal drivers I've ever seen. I've driven all over. And wow, and it was driving me nuts. And it literally caused me to have a meltdown. And the only way I could have prevented that was to know ahead of time that part of my self-identity was knowing the roads. How to get from here to here, what time, in my local region. I knew everything. Hell, I'd mapped Reno and Sparks once for a job. And that was gone. I didn't have that. A pillar of my life, of my self-identity was gone. So, I can't do the job that I've been doing for 10 years, since 2005. And I've been a courier mostly. And I was gone. And that caused a meltdown. How could I have prevented that? Well, I could have studied the roads. I could have studied them like they were a college course. I could have studied traffic. And that would have really helped. It would have really helped to know ahead of time, of course, where we were going to move to. Because, again, I don't know if I mentioned this, we didn't know till 3 days before we moved into this apartment that we were going to move into this apartment. We were already relocated to Boston area. We were not terribly smart. We decided to come here and then find a place to live, but that was pretty much what we had to do given what the landlords were asking. So I could have done that. What could have happened in 2002? Well, I could have realized that maybe keeping track of my financial details down to the very last cent probably wasn't the smartest idea if one wants to remain sane. And that's what I mean. It's like dropping a rock off a roof with your car below. Don't ask when the rock is halfway down, what do I do to stop the rock? There's no stopping the rock. It's falling. It's going to hit your car. It's going to break your roof and your windows. What you should have done was try to stop the rock before it fell. You should never have brought it to the ledge. You should never have dropped it. Maybe you shouldn't even brought it up the stairs. All of that is where you stop the rock from falling. Once it's in the air, it's too late. Have a good week.